talk about the VOD and the silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 755, the lost voyage of Demeter.
I think it's the last.
I guess it's the
It's
last.
definitely the last.
Didn't sink.
But it did crash.
Yeah.
Only had to watch the first 3 minutes of this movie. What was the point? Should have left after that.
Yeah, they put the spoiler right in the title.
They do.
Yeah. Like, what's
Tell
the
you right
point of
away.
this movie?
Yeah. I was asking myself that for all 1 hour and 58 minutes.
You know what? I wasn't, because I was sleeping.
I had a blast.
I literally fell asleep during this movie.
I was fighting it.
It was so boring.
boring.
but-
I was all in.
So let's go around the table and everyone can introduce themselves. We'll start with the person who has taken movies.
This is Kevin. Sorry, this is Joe.
Saying.
Yeah, that was
Shots
good, though.
fired.
This
Fair
is what
enough.
happens when you work the night before and you're still awake.
I got nothing. This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. So before we get into everything, in case we haven't already, I guess, shameless plugs. Don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, iHeart, TuneIn. Wherever you find a podcast, you can find us while you're there. Be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. That's always super helpful. You can also find us on the Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. It's the best way to talk to us if you are so inclined. We're always in the group chatting. It's called the League of Show Shares because we're hoping you'll also share an episode. People who were kind enough to share an episode this week include librarian Cynthia, who is safe and sound.
Oh, good.
She's
Good,
in
good,
Hawaii, for people who aren't aware.
Glad to hear
I
that.
believe her home address is 1590. No.
You checked on her on Google Maps.
Yes.
There she is in the yard.
Travis Tewitt, Chris Falls, Glenn Cougar, Mellon Brewer, Jason McLean, Lane Levanway, Tammy Lynn Powers, Betts, Julianne Jordan, Ralph Tribble, Chris Magic Man, Gabriel Lugo, Tom Dowdy, Dissect That Film, Taylor Ward. Sounds like a department store.
A little bit, yeah.
I always think of Jay Ward,
Who's that?
From
Rocky and
Rocky and
Bullwinkle.
Bullwinkle.
That's the first thing when I ever hear that name. I'm like, maybe a relative?
Maybe.
We had a relative
Not Burt
of
Ward?
Burl Ives, so
That's true.
yeah.
where was it? Oh, Taylor Ward. Heather Sachs, Jeremy Todd, Christopher Rex, Edit Photo Gamer, The Film Bee, Nerd Adonis, Mike, and Oscar, Binge Movies, Geek to Me Radio, Ronnie Castle, Colby Mack, Nostalgia Cast, Spoiler Piece Theater, In Session Film, Two Peas on a Pod.
That's a good one.
Pod is open and they're on top of the pod?
They're on a
On
pod.
a pod.
Yeah. But 2 peas in a pod. That's a well done.
It was on a pod. Two
That
Peas
too.
on a pod. Because it's a podcast.
Yeah, now I don't know what's happening.
Right?
So
I hope they do it on a pod. I hope there's a large Monsanto overgrown
Oh, I was like, I hope they
bean
do it on a
pod.
pod person.
Matt Neglia, Ryan Terry, and Feelin' Film. So there's all that. Also,
worked.
It did. Also, don't forget we have a Patreon.
There it is.
Patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 a month you get bonus content, and we love you long time.
That's right.
So there's all that.
Did we get reviews?
No. Did we?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I completely forgot that we had that.
Review
Yes.
privileges revoked from Joe.
We have a
Diplomatic
review that I think counts as a Patreon episode.
Yeah, I think
it
that's
was
right.
very lengthy.
All right. Buckle in, folks. Great podcast. This is from Big Tuna for that's a great name.
How I
by the
Met Your
way.
Mother reference?
No, that's a Office reference.
Oh, is that Big Tuna?
He was Big Fudge.
Oh, Big Fudge.
Yeah, Big Tuna was Jim.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what
Big-
Andy would
The
call
Office.
Jim.
You've got
Yeah.
it. Got
Or I
it.
guess you just call him Tuna.
Yeah.
Hey guys, love the podcast. Been listening to it for years. Just listen to the Oppenheimer review real quick. As you may know, when Oppenheimer shows Einstein the equations that show the possibility of a nuclear explosion destroying the planet, and Einstein gives the equations back saying something like, "I was never the best at math," it is not meant to be a humble brag. Einstein was a genius for putting the pieces together in the new creative ways in his theory of relativity, but he had substantial help from his friends and colleagues who were more gifted mathematicians with the supporting equation. Jeepers creepers.
Now, this is Joe doing this from memory because he's a scholar. This is just so you guys know, if you're not watching, Joe is just explaining this to you.
It's actually, I know all of this. Yeah. I totally lost where I was. And an early paper publication from Einstein that was the precursor to the publications that made Einstein famous, there was actually a mathematical error in the paper. So when Einstein says something like, I wasn't the best at math, I think it was meant to be a joke for the science nerds who would know that Einstein had substantial help from his colleagues with the mathematics for his theories. There would be some dialogue in the beginning of the movie that alluded to the fact that the best theoretical physicists, i.e. Oppenheimer and Einstein, are not necessarily the best mathematicians, which is its own specialty. But it's hard to pick that up unless you already knew that. If Nolan did some Einstein Easter egg, holy guacamole!
Didn't I say that on the podcast that
I wasn't here? I don't know
that it was kind of known that Einstein wasn't good at math.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
But either way, if Nolan's like, I got a joke for him.
Yeah.
That's awesome insight,
they like Easter eggs. I got an Easter egg.
That's a cool review, though. Thank you
that's
for
great.
listening and the positive words, and then also the explanation, because we don't always catch all those little.
No, heck no.
Yeah.
No.
Especially when it's about math and science.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Joe wasn't on that episode to explain it to us.
You want to
so-
drop like a superhero reference,
Right.
Got you.
No,
all day.
you weren't here, so you couldn't explain it.
That is
Just roll
also
with it,
correct.
Joe.
I could not explain. But
Yeah,
like,
you
actually,
would've-
as a matter of
Yeah,
fact,
it would have been a 3-hour podcast if Joe were here.
that's neither here nor there.
Anyway,
Timer going?
there's all that. Oh,
60 minutes?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
T minus.
That you're telling me I forgot to turn on the
No,
timer.
T minus 53
Yeah.
and go.
oh man, it's so.
we have a YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
YouTube.com.
Lord knows. We got
Okay.
got that?
Yeah.
Voyage of Demeter.
I feel like we have been in this weird period with vampire movies.
They stopped making them?
Well, they did Twilight, right? And then
good Lord, that's been gone for 15
but
years.
I'm saying like that version of a vampire.
I think
has
everybody
been-
pivoted to zombies.
yeah.
Yes.
It all became zombies. And then didn't we? What was the movie we saw where it was a vampire movie, but they were really zombies?
Oh.
We were like, they're calling them vampires, but everything about them is a zombie.
There was something. Shoot.
I know what you're talking about.
But
I haven't seen a good, like, Renfield I really enjoyed. And that was more of a comedy, though, right?
Yes.
Like, and I really loved that portrayal and the comedy of
there
it all.
was a movie called The Invitation, I think, that came out a couple years ago that they almost From Dusk Till Dawned it, where you're seeing
Started off with one thing.
and you're just
then-
like, wait a minute.
as a
this is
kid,
a
I was
vampire
just
movie?
I was just like, what? When I saw that on VHS.
When they go spoilers for From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, yeah. Please give him a 5-second warning.
When Selma Hayek turns, you're like, what?
And the movie just goes
and
bananas.
it goes bananas. Yes, I love that movie.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I again rented it from the Schnucks, our local grocery store, on VHS. Had no idea what to expect, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool, Quentin Tarantino, yeah, the witty dialogue, and all this stuff." And then I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
What is this?"
And then it is off to the rails.
Yeah.
But I do think that they've gotten away from the scary, violent vampire, right? I think that the Bela Lugosi version is what we had for years until Christopher Lee did the Hammer stuff. And if you've never seen the Hammer Christopher Lee vampire movies, I think they obviously go off the rails a little bit by like the fourth one, but at least those first two are insanely and very like scary for 1960s, 70s. And then, we got Blade, or we've gotten From Dusk Till Dawn, or John Carpenter's Vampires. But
that
then,
first Blade is so good.
first two are really good. That second one's also equally as it's a different kind
Del
of
Toro.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the third one.
I just remember, as a kid though, watching that, I thought that was the coolest
That
movie.
opening scene's amazing.
That, oh my gosh, is that the one that goes don't
Yeah, they're having a rave in like an
the
old
locker.
meat packing plant.
It's such a cool movie, such good action. Wesley Snipes is awesome as Blade. I thought that Deacon Frost, who's that guy? Stephen Dorff was awesome, great villain.
Donald Loge, he was great.
Yeah, it's just such a great movie, and I'm really curious. Like before the writer's strike, even I think that lost a director, changed a director.
I think so.
There was a big, and I was
Mahershala
excited.
Ali has stayed on this entire
Apparently,
time.
I mean, it's for now, but with all those changes, like he can only lock up his schedule for so long, right? Because
Yeah.
he has to take other movies, and if he knows he's doing the big Marvel movie, he's got to turn stuff down. So like, it sucks for him to be tied to it. I mean, now doesn't really matter at the moment,
Yeah,
but
right.
previously, right? If it gets delayed 2 years and he's locking in, they're going to
Right.
film during this time if we get it going. So
I don't know.
But anyway, I was excited for it, but I don't even know if it's going to happen at this point.
I think if anything, it'd be a TV show at this point. I don't know if it'll be a movie. But then Twilight happens, right? And that version of vampire kind of takes over pop culture. Like it's everywhere, and those movies were massive, right? They did a bunch of money.
Like Interview with the Vampire, I watched growing up, and I always thought that was cool. And like, I think that was probably one of the more pop culture
that
vampire
was
movies, right?
big time.
It was a
Yeah.
huge movie.
It won Oscars, right? Did
it win
she won an Oscar for sure?
for adapted?
Kirsten Dunst did.
Oh, Kirsten
Did you
Dunst.
win?
I think so.
I don't remember.
think so.
She was definitely nominated.
Yeah. She's a good little actor. Like I remember I saw Natalie Portman in The Professional, and I saw her in Interview with the Vampire, and I just was impressed. Where like those are, and Tom and I, it was off mic, I think, but we were talking about Lindsay Lohan because I was watching the doll movie because Barbie,
yeah.
whatever the DCOM movie was with the doll. It's something that Katie grew up watching, and we watched it. And I'm like, you could just tell that Lindsay Lohan was such a good actor at a young age.
I feel like Mean Girls is it. I mean,
she was great in that, but as a
this with
kid,
no
though, you
disrespect, but Mean Girls she peaked.
Yeah.
And then she did like Herbie
I think she
Fully
was
Loaded.
She was
and-
barely holding it together for Mean
Yeah.
Girls.
Oh,
I mean, she
sure.
was already like a hot mess, but
And then I feel like Emma Stone became Lindsay Lohan.
but she's a better actress.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
and
don't
I-
I mean?
and
She
not
kind of,
not a problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
but she
Yes.
became like the redhead that's quirky, like doing the same type of roles. That
Right.
like
I could definitely
attitude.
have seen Lindsay Lohan in Crazy Stupid Love. Like I could see that.
I think she's
swap.
kind of the same. I know they're both redheads. I'm not just saying that, but seriously, it's like the roles seem like almost
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, and then we've been, monster movies kind of don't exist anymore. Nobody really does monster movies. It's ghosts because of The Conjuring and all that stuff like made stupid money or found footage. And so while I understand everybody's criticisms about this movie,
I like the idea of this movie.
The concept is freaking great. I was excited to
yeah,
cover this movie.
I was
I'm
too.
Like,
I was like this. I'm like I would love a good throwback movie like this. I like the idea that it's based on one chapter from Dracula.
Yeah.
I think it's a brilliant concept to
Yeah.
take a chapter and expand it if you do it right.
Especially because this chapter is basically like a bottle episode.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
if people haven't read Dracula, they're not familiar with it. When they hear a chapter of Dracula, that sounds ridiculous. But like, there's this kind of standalone chapter that's basically like a long short story, and it's about how Dracula got to where he was at,
Right.
and he's on this boat, and he starts picking people off on this boat one by one. And it's interesting that it's, especially considered Dracula is written in like 1860 or something,
Yeah.
and that it got a very modern sensibility. That all of a sudden the story kind of pulls out, and you're getting like newspaper clippings that are telling you that you have to kind of piece together with excerpts from the captain's
You mean
log
in the book
and the book
itself.
itself.
I got you.
And so it's a very, I guess I can't say modern take because it's something
it was
people
ahead of the time.
but it's something people still steal from.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
J.J. Abrams throwing together that book where you have to put a bunch of trinkets together. and-
Exactly. Yeah, totally. And so
They copied J.J. Abrams.
No, it's
Yeah,
Bram
it's
Stoker, you
Bram
son of a bitch.
it's weird to see a premise that feels that modern in a book that old, right?
It's like watching The Apartment, man. I love that movie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that movie is such a modern sensibility. I cannot believe
Yes.
it was made that long ago.
it fell through a wormhole in time.
That is one of my favorite
Yeah.
movies, and I just cannot believe when I discovered it. I don't know if it's been 10 years now or whatever, but I when I first saw that movie, and then I immediately messaged Tom, and I'm like, I love this movie.
Tom's like,
feels,
I know.
It feels so out of place.
It does,
and it's amazing.
It's like who, especially because The Apartment's about this woman who's having an affair, but it's this very kind of non-slut shamey take on it, which considering it's made in 1961.
That sounds right. I can't remember the exact year. That sounds right. But and then Jack Lemmon is so funny.
That dude is so good.
Yeah, he's
always so good.
1960. That's pretty good off the top.
Yeah, that's
pretty good.
it. Yeah, it
impressive.
sounded right. But and then he's in Lady Killers, right? Same
yeah.
director. I was thinking he used him in a few other Billy Wilder. What?
Some Like It Hot.
Yeah,
Some Like It Hot,
yeah.
yeah.
So that was kind of his troupe. Like some directors have.
Billy Wilder didn't do Young Sherlock Holmes, did he?
No, he was dead by now.
No.
Okay.
But Billy Wilder was one of those directors that could do so many.
Billy
movies.
Wilder, Howard Hawks, Richard Donner.
Those craftsmen.
Yeah,
were
yeah,
just-
like Billy Wilder movies, they're all like so radically different.
all over the place, and they're all so good. Or I mean, a lot of them
Yeah,
are so
it's like
good.
The Apartment, Some Like It Hot, Stalag 17. You're
Right.
just like, what?
What?
Yeah.
Where did
it's-
did that
Craftsman, like
come
Ron
from?
Howard.
Yeah.
director
Yeah,
for
sure. Yeah,
hire,
those
you
guys
know,
that can
crank
kind of
them
just
out.
do whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like the premise of this movie, it's a like I was in, you
Yeah.
know, and
It's
it,
great.
like,
I love chamber pieces, and
Yeah.
I love the idea of a contained claustrophobic.
Chamber pots.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you know what?
which is what this movie
I
is.
belongs one. I started thinking during this movie, I'm like, all those guys are stuck on a boat and they're all going to the bathroom. I'm
Yep.
like, that is a smelly mess.
That's that's what
trying
I
to clean that and dump it
thinking.
over the.
Thinking
Yeah.
like when people, we look at Pirates of the Caribbean or things like that, and it's like,
Oh, so
that was an
beautiful. Johnny Depp
awful,
looking so clean
yeah.
and great.
It was an awful existence.
Yes.
Well, that's why they sold so much perfume back then.
Yes, that's
right?
true.
Like
Yeah.
because people didn't bathe regularly.
No.
There was no hot water. You know how hard it was to get a hot bath was like a luxury.
No wonder they called it eau de toilette.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
You need some eau de toilette. You're
It was
smelling like the
gross.
toilet.
Yeah.
But this,
The whole world would have smelled like Axe body spray. And those teenagers that like, oh, I don't need to shower. I have Axe body. God, I remember when I worked at Pops,
work on a college campus, man.
and it was just like those kids would come strolling in for AFI or something, and it'd be like, oh my God. I'm like, you're not supposed to use it instead of a shower. It's in addition to.
As someone who used to go to comic conventions fairly regularly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I got an early
Comic-Con
review for
funk.
the book Bram Stoker's Dracula. Oh, that wasn't scary.
I saw that coming from a mile away. But I did think, as I'm watching this, it felt a lot like Alien.
Sure, it's alien on a boat.
Well, it's Alien and
And what
Salem's
else was I
Lot.
thinking? Yeah,
Are
there's
the two that like I kept going back to. Like it's a mix of those.
But so the idea of claustrophobia I like, except this movie is shot so poorly, I never had a sense of space.
No, it's very messy, and
it's
$45 million on this. You know what? I looked up the budget because I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, if this is a $5 million movie,
Yeah.
then maybe this is a little like it's Universal produced, but like more indie done, and like,
Right.
hire this director no one knows, and
Their
make a
Blumhouse
little
kind of a
yeah.
thing.
And then
Yeah.
I look at $45 million, and I go, okay, no, there's no excuse.
And it's
what did they do with $45 million?
It's not like the cast of this is the guy from it's Sir Davos from Game
The
of
Onion
Thrones,
Knight, yes.
and then it's the dude. I couldn't figure this out for the life of me. I knew he played Dr. Dre.
He played Dr. Dre, yeah.
and I was like, I wish I could know this guy's name. And if he is British,
Is that
Corey
Corey
Hawkins.
Hawkins?
yeah, if he's British in real life and he was able to capture like Dre's voice,
Yeah.
that's even more impressive.
He was
for
on
that
Walking
movie.
Dead.
I think by the time I stopped watching.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Once they clubbered Glenn, I was like, nah.
I think I stopped in like season. They were stuck in a prison and never leaving. And I was just like,
That's the show.
Yeah.
walk. Find
thing
some
like
new place.
Lord of the
and-
Rings.
I was like, I'm
Just
done.
3 movies of
But
people walk into a volcano.
it was so like dark, like visually
was.
dark that
Yes.
I'm like, I can't see what's going on. Not like in a like, ooh, this is scary way, but like in just like I don't even know what I'm looking at. And
It's just really boring too.
they
Is the
need
problem.
if they need someone to just be vicious in the editing room,
Yes.
and pull this thing down to 90 minutes, and they might have something.
Sure.
Not
because-
enough happens in between.
Yeah,
stuff
because like when they would get to the Dracula scenes, it was good. Now I get you can't make a whole movie of just
Yeah.
a compilation of Dracula
Sure,
kills. Like, I
sure.
mean, I get that, but
it's Jaws is the one I was thinking. It's Jaws too.
I could see
because they're
that.
hiding
Yeah.
Dracula and they're all like,
Oh,
there's
yeah.
something out there killing and picking
Yeah.
people
Yeah, that's
off.
fair.
It's
That's fair.
to me it seemed like Jaws. I don't want to say on a boat, but Dracula Jaws. Jaws killer.
Jaws on-
We got
Jaws-
something there.
Jaws on a boat.
Hold on. Vampire Jaws. We got
Trademark
something.
it.
yeah, I just like it was just so drab in between, and it was hard to see. And I was like, oh, we're gonna see this like old timey boat. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
and like you really don't. And
You were wrong.
yeah, I was very wrong.
That was my issue as well. Is
Yeah.
I do feel like, again, we've talked about it a billion times, is horror movies don't build characters, right? But
This movie wasn't scary. That's the other thing.
I don't know
They
that
did
it had to be.
It was too. You say it's too dark, but I also think it was like too bright. There was no atmosphere of
Yeah.
I'm nervous because something's about to get them. Like
Right.
it seemed like I was watching this in the broad daylight. outdoors, like I just, when I was, I'm watching on the big Alamo screen,
Yeah.
but not the big house, but a big screen. And it just never, every kill was just felt like it was happening in daylight, it just,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
they didn't set this atmosphere enough to make it, and maybe there wasn't a good enough score. It just didn't grab me,
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing. I do think that though they were trying to kind of do what they were doing in Insidious 5, where they were trying to rebuild. In Insidious 5, they were trying to rebuild those characters, right, and make you care about them. And I feel like in this one, they were trying to do the same thing with the captain and his grandson. Yes, Captain Tennille.
Was that his son or grandson?
I thought
it was his
grandson.
grandson.
Okay. Got it.
And-
trigger warning. Dog dies very early in this movie. Very early, like first kill.
They
and
kill
then
a kid.
And then a
They
kid
kill a
dies.
kid.
So like trigger warning for
Not
people.
only
And I don't think the kid's in the short story.
Oh, they invented him to kill him?
my
Yeah, like at
God.
first I was like, boy, you can tell this is from the 1800s. They didn't, they're like, kids die, like whatever. And because, also, if you think about it back then, kids died.
Right.
Like that, like today, thankfully, it's fairly uncommon for a child to die. But back then,
Unless you're Jacob Tremblay.
Yeah, that poor God.
What if they cast him in that role? What if it's him?
Can
He's
I
always-
tell you that to this day, I have a hard time with that entire scene.
It's a messed up. And
That-
the extended version, the director's cut or
Jesus.
whatever, is longer.
It is. He's so convincing. I don't like that scene at all.
It's your flounder right there,
yeah,
man.
well, he got filleted all right.
but
I-
back then, like kids died all the time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It wasn't uncommon to be like, oh, it's a family of 10, but there were 2 other kids. that
Yeah,
didn't make
right,
it.
right.
Rose the Hat, Dr. Sleep, are they vampires? Is
So-
that like,
no,
but,
they-
they're, but they're not though? Like
They're
is that-
shine vampires.
But, okay.
they treated them
eat
like
people
vampires.
and they
Yeah.
get
Yes.
powers. Like
Hey,
I don't know. I don't know they ever called them vampires.
No, but I'm
they-
wondering
but
if
the
that was-
rules work similar.
Yeah, an
I have
example.
a theory about that movie.
Oh
About,
yeah, you mentioned it. Well,
I think,
tweeted it,
I think Jack has the shine.
which I think makes perfect sense as to why
I-
he can see all the
I
people.
I think what happens is he has it and he's using alcohol the entire time before they get to the Overlook
to suppress it.
to suppress it
Yeah.
he gets
because he's off alcohol and he's going.
he gets
nuts.
sober.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Overlook was after Danny. I think once they realized that Jack was susceptible, it latched onto Jack, and he's sober now. So now the shine is completely off the rails, and and they get a hold of him. We know that Danny in Dr. Sleep is using alcohol to suppress the shine there.
Yeah.
So that's
I think
my-
that
that's my
work checks
theory,
out
yeah.
100% to me. I don't know why I hadn't heard that before. When you said that, I'm like, well, yeah, that just makes sense.
Right.
And maybe is it Mike Flanagan?
Yeah.
And he adapted the book, right? But I mean, like
Mike Flanagan did Dr. Sleep, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe they were. I don't know if he had more input on that with King or how that worked, but maybe they were retroactively planting that because
Maybe.
you see Danny and he's using alcohol to numb it, and they're kind of like.
And then as
well,
soon
that's
as what happens when Danny's sober at the Overlook?
Yeah,
It goes after Danny.
Yeah.
Right? And then of course that movie's fantastic. That
no
director's
beer,
cut.
no TV. It's right there.
That's right. Make Homer go something.
Yeah, don't mind if I do.
Give me the bat mark.
Give me the map.
But no, like I do think that they were. I also got like flashes of The Thing where
Yeah.
you're not really sure who you can trust, or there are these,
Oh, Among Us.
yes,
for the kids.
Sure, yeah, Among Us for the God. But I do think that there are some really good moments in this. I did
Bloody.
I did really
Gory moments.
Yeah, I did really enjoy it for the most part. I don't disagree that it is a little long on the tooth.
I didn't like Dracula. I
And like he was a monster the whole time.
well,
was-
especially because they say that he can
Shift.
disguise himself
Yeah.
as a man, but you never really see it. You get in that last scene,
Kind
but I'm
of,
like,
too, and he
but I'm
didn't even
like,
look like a
I'm like,
man.
you ain't fooling anybody. Buddy.
He looked like a vampire bat with a top hat on. Like,
Right,
he still
like,
looked weird. Like,
it's-
why did they not make him? We
I
know he
thought
should look
what-
like
I
Gary
thought it's
Oldman
like
by
if,
that point.
if you put a wig on Nicolas Cage, that doesn't make him trans, right?
Sure, sure,
that's
sure.
what they're doing here.
Yes.
I'm like you said, they just put a top hat on a dude
I think-
and said like, look at me, I'm
It's a
Mr.
disguise.
I'm Mr. Theodore, not a vampire.
yeah, right.
And-
Like, I'm surprised he didn't have those glasses with the nose and the mustache.
Yeah, right,
yeah,
right.
like, I'm just like, you're not fooling
I
anybody.
thought what they were going to do.
He should look like
I
Gary
thought-
Oldman at that point.
I
like, he
thought
should
they
look,
were going to hide who he was.
Yes.
Because they're clearly
Yes.
trying to set up a sequel, and that they were hiding his face so they could maybe cast a name actor
Yeah.
in
What
the
I
next one.
There were two things that I thought they were going to. One I wish that they would have done is
Made a different movie.
no.
Shortened it.
Yes. But every time he would kill someone, I thought he would look more
Evolve.
human.
Right.
Like, which is
he
a
kind
trait
of changed
That
and
would've
got
been-
powers. He could
That would have
fly.
been clever, which is why they didn't do it.
I know.
But they
that does-
kind
is
of like, but
annoying.
he was to kill a human. He would get more powers back. He would get more strength because at first he's crawling and really
Right,
weak.
yeah.
And so that makes sense. But I thought they even told you in the film, it's like once he gets his powers up, he can transform into humans and stuff. So why did they never get to
the
that?
second thing I thought they were going to do is in that last scene, I thought he was going to be Bela Lugosi. I thought for it, like with everybody doing like the likenesses
yeah.
and this being a
and
Universal
make it
movie,
an actual,
Right.
I was wondering if it would
I was
actually
like,
tie in.
and I wasn't sure which one they were going to tie into, right?
Right.
Because you
Right.
could do it either way. You could do the Gary Oldman
Who
one.
was the Dark Universe? Did we have a Dracula?
We never got that far.
Well, here he is. This is just
Well, that's the other thing I thought. Right? Is this is a Universal movie? They've already done the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
I'm like, if they're gonna like backdoor this into being part of that world,
if it were good,
They probably
if it
would.
worked
They
out,
would
then
retcon
this
it.
would
Yeah.
be. And like you said, it's brilliant because Dracula can disguise his look, so you could cast different people and it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
if this makes $100 million on a $20 million budget or whatever, then you go like, okay, let's throw some whoever money at it. You know, whatever the hot actor would be that would be the human form of Dracula.
yeah.
And
Well, Universal does have a Dracula movie.
Luke Evans.
He did it once. Dracula Untold is a thing that is real.
But he could do it in like the older, more sophisticated. Because I think I like him as an actor. I'm not saying that movie was good, but you
was
know,
not good.
But he could do, I think, the more.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that I'm almost positive Universal has a Dracula movie in the pipeline.
That Karen Kusama
That's
was
the
going to do
one.
one. It's not.
Oh, it's not happening?
I don't think it's
Okay,
happening,
okay.
unfortunately.
No, well, nothing's happening right now.
Well, that's
Yeah.
true.
Oh, of
But
course.
yeah, I just didn't like.
Yeah, my movie's not happening either.
Yeah.
That's really frustrating.
Yeah, signed a 3-picture deal. It's
Yeah.
not gonna happen.
Now it's not good.
But yeah, I just didn't like the look. Like, I didn't mind the.
He looked just like Salem, the vampire in Salem's Lot.
Yeah,
Like almost identical.
but it's just like I felt like they were trying to have it both ways, but then not actually doing it.
No,
Yeah,
you
you
can't
know.
say like he disguises himself as a human,
Right.
and he never disguises.
But yeah, that's the thing is like
himself
the
as a
way
human.
they end that movie, you can make him look however you like. You can have him. So the end of this movie, right? We've. You want to do 60 minutes? It doesn't matter.
I will talk about Ninja Turtles again for 30 minutes.
Like the Dracula is basically picking off everyone on this ship,
Yeah.
and the only one that survives is Dr. Dre.
Which is a nice.
Because
It's nice to see a horror movie. Normally, the black guy's the first one to die.
but do you know why he survived? Because he forgot about Dre.
oh, jeez.
Thank you very much.
Wow. That
But
is-
so he survives, and
that's,
he
is it Calloway? Clemens.
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 Yeah, Clemens survives, and I was like, what if it? Again, I was like, oh, his real name is Van Helsing.
I thought for sure it was going to be Clemens and the kid
Was Van Helsing?
were going to pull away on a dinghy at the
Guess
end. or
what?
something.
Nope.
No.
Oh, and David Dastmalchian is in it again.
Oh, yeah, and he's in it a lot.
From Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
He's like would you call the first hand, whatever
He's Riker.
the next guy to the captain, whatever
Yeah.
that is called.
Number 2.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, number 2. That's very fitting. Not for his performance, but for the movie.
That guy-
matey.
First mate.
First
That's
mate,
right.
yeah.
The skipper to
I did think-
millionaire.
yeah.
I know the
what
one-
if this was a hidden Gilligan's Island movie?
Or the one scene where they were in the storm and they were
Yeah.
on the wheel, and I was like, if
The
not
ship
for
was
the
lost.
courage of the fearless crew, the Demeter would be lost.
Okay, I want to re-edit this movie when
To
it
make
comes
it
out
a-
as a Gilligan's
Gilligan's
Island,
Island?
like a creepy Gilligan's Island pilot. Oh, maybe
It's-
we'll get something.
But yeah, I also my other
Yeah,
biggest
kind of like in the mid 2000s when everything was like, it's
gritty.
Gilligan's Island, but it's by J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, all the gritty recuts
Yeah.
of trailers. Oh, what do they do? The Shining is a
It's
A
family-
romantic
it's a family-
comedy.
Yeah,
and they,
yeah.
they play Salisbury Hill.
dun, dun. It would always be
Totally
dun,
works.
So
dun.
it's
Totally
so
works.
weird how it
Yeah.
works.
That song is the perfect.
I-
even though it was in Good Company, which I mean was fine, but I don't think that like took the world by storm.
No.
But then it became the soundtrack to
Yeah.
every.
My other big complaint is Dracula himself. I am so
Dracula.
tired of CG monsters.
Yeah.
Like this is a perfect if obviously
Oh,
you're
they
not
should've
going
not practical.
you're not going to put him in the rain, right? The rain's going to be the CG part. That's
Yeah.
fine. But you have this opportunity to make a vampire. Like let somebody do the makeup for this thing and let it,
If you're gonna make an old school movie,
go old school.
Make an old school movie.
Yes, I
Yeah.
totally agree. And I love like horror period pieces like this because you can negate technology. You can build this world where it's, villages and hills and, the whole Gothic set.
Yeah.
I think that's so fun and doesn't happen anymore. And then they make a CG monster, and it's like, God, it's the same thing every single time.
I don't necessarily even mind the design. Like, I think the creature design was actually good.
It was
but
fine.
They just didn't use it effectively.
Yeah, I just wanted to see it pivot to something else. Yeah,
like it wasn't even I would never say this movie was bad CG. It actually felt like they were on a boat. Like the positives of the movie, I think it looked good. Like it really did feel like they
when
were
it was
sailing.
showing you things.
Yeah, but the water in the background, like I really do feel like the CG was good. The set design, I mean, it looked like a boat. The costumes, it very much felt like it took part in that time period. So it's not the look of the film at all, actually, but it's the atmosphere of the film. Because again, this movie should be like Alien, where it's
You're
creepy
stuck on a boat.
and there's a monster coming after you and you don't know where it's going to come from, and then boom, it gets you. But every kill, I just swear to you, I'm like, it had no effect whatsoever. There was nothing scary.
The only time I jumped in this entire movie was, I don't remember exactly what happened. Nothing happened. They just
Crystal put a tack on your seat.
yeah, they switched. They cut to a new scene and it was daylight.
Oh yeah, and it got so bright.
And it got so bright.
Yeah,
and I was
exactly.
like, whoa.
Yeah,
but I wasn't scared. I was just like, whoa,
It hurt my eyeballs.
I think this movie just gave me LASIK.
but man, it's such a fun concept.
It is, and I appreciate that they don't hammer you with like old tropes.
I get it.
Yeah, you don't appreciate
Yeah.
that. You wish they hammered us.
Well, that they don't hit you with like all of the lore, right? Like,
Why,
it's,
okay, but then sometimes I would like the lore. Like, why didn't the crucifix work?
I thought the same
because
thing.
they put those famous things in there about how it's always religion and crucifixes and all that. Yeah, and then it didn't.
I was
work.
also,
but I will say, in the book, they find the captain strapped to the wheel of the boat with a crucifix in his hand.
Okay.
So, like, that's not, like, you can't lay that, as much as I was confused by it, I can't lay that at the foot of the movie.
Yeah.
That's
You know
true.
what I mean?
It's in the book.
It's in the book that way. So then I'm like, I've never read Dracula. So I'm like, were the crucifixes something that like Hollywood came up with years later that weren't possible?
I do feel like there is a part in the book, or maybe it's in like one of the old movies, where Dracula goes like, "That's silly. That doesn't work." Like, and that maybe
it's in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Maybe,
I'm not even making that
maybe
up.
I'm thinking of that.
Like, she does that
where
and he
someone
was
goes,
just like-
"That's just silly." Yeah, maybe I'm just thinking of that. I feel like it was in an older movie, and I'm thinking it might be part
movie's
of
so good.
the lore is that doesn't really, and it's one of those things. But
Yeah.
I would just like a little. I would have liked to have seen
Well,
a
there's all
Dracula that
kinds of
could
weird-
talk and maybe say that.
There's
When
all
he's,
kinds
you know,
of weird, like, I don't think a vampire can cross running water was always a thing. And I was like, well, he's on the ocean. Like, that's pretty.
I like that they burned up in sunlight.
I thought when that guy gets tied to the mast, and
Okay, this guy's burning. Like he's
On wood.
on a wooden boat.
I think that,
I
like,
thought the same thing. I go, don't you guys want to move him off?
Yeah,
the wooden?
like-
maybe don't let him burn the mast.
like,
Yeah.
you know, you're sailing on wood.
I did.
I
the
thought
same
the
thing.
same exact thing in the movie
It
where they're
looked
just
cool.
watching him. They're like, oh wow,
Yeah,
I just want somebody to be like, it's okay, the fire CGI.
yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's
that
like
was
I did think the same thing. Where I was
one
like,
of those dumb
don't,
things.
Don't tie him to the
like
fire.
all they need, and this is what we talk about when you talk about a director like James Gunn in Guardians 3. That little thing about like how Chris Pratt would not be able to drive a car because Star-Lord did not grow up
Sure.
driving. Right? It would take 5 seconds of a scene for them to go, get him off there, done.
Right.
Get him off there.
Right.
The ship
Hurry.
will burn. Right?
Yeah.
That is what a better writer. I mean, no offense to this guy. I've never heard of him before. But, like, I'm not trying to just pick on him. But, I mean, that is the difference. You have to include those little things. And if you're going to make it 2 hours, I'm sure you could cut something else to put 5 seconds of
Dialogue.
Of, you know, to not make it look silly where
Right.
they're on a wooden mast and they're
And
it's burning.
actually, that's one of the things that I did like about killing the kid. Right? Is the kid is so this kid is, you know, he's not precocious. He's
Just real quick, I looked it up, and Dracula by Bram Stoker seems to be the first reference of crosses to ward off vampires. So
Okay.
it does work. So
It was.
I don't
Okay.
understand. Maybe he's a Presbyterian, so he doesn't care about crucifixes.
true.
So
It
is
just
this
means
maybe
nothing
like
to me.
this guy's
Yeah.
subversion? Is he like, you know, rewriting it to...
yeah, which would just also, if you're gonna rewrite, like, come on, man, like, it's,
But it's the same way in the book. Like he's holding
Oh,
the
sure,
crucifix.
sure.
So like,
Right, so you would
I don't know.
and they kind of, you know, there's a moment when the kid is like trapped in that office in the captain's quarters.
Sir Davos locks him into the office and locks him in with
No,
Dracula.
No, he gets out. The kid gets out and is like walking around the ship, and he sees the zombie vampire dude, and he runs back in, and then Dracula's in there. He locks himself in there with Dracula.
Sorry, you said in the off. I thought you were at that part after.
No. But the kid, like, there's a moment where the kid's got that cross, and he kind of holds it. He's got it in his hand, and the zombie vampire dude like backs away.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, like now we're because none of these people know vampire lore,
right?
So they're just trying to figure this out.
And those are the moments that worked, like with the big creepy zombie guy.
I thought he was great. I thought that was great.
I thought that was really good. It looked good. I thought it was more anxiety inducing, with the kid and everything. Like, that stuff worked. But it's the stuff in between where they didn't do enough writing and make the characters interesting enough. I mean, all the crew looked the same. I couldn't hardly tell them apart.
Yeah.
One of them was a woman. That was the only reason we knew
One was Asian. Thank you. Right. I'm like, I can spot that guy.
Yeah, so...
Although, how nice is it for a change to be like, I can't tell all these white people apart.
Look at them. They're all dirty.
They all look alike.
Yeah.
Dunkirk.
Yeah,
we said that.
Yeah.
I didn't know who Harry Styles was. That's the one that's in that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah.
All a bunch of dirty white dudes with beards.
So we should say, so
what is this, Duck Dynasty?
So real quick, plot wise for this thing, so the captain, the crew don't really know who hired them, but they have this valuable cargo they're transporting from point A to point
B.
B.
From Romania to England.
Which makes sense with the Dracula lore. That's how he's getting to the mainland. And they are transporting these big wooden crates, which essentially are, one is the Dracula coffin. And are dragons a thing? I didn't realize Dracula and dragons were.
There is something about him being like the dragon.
Called the dragon. Yeah, I thought
the dragons or something like that.
But because they're loading this thing up, and one has these dragon symbols on it.
Well, they all do. And then the guy that
I thought
it,
the main one had like fancy seals on it.
That's true. Yes,
right, like gold seals. But they were like prints.
Yes.
Yeah. So and what they do is when they're in Romania, they're going to town and they need 3 crewmen, and we find out that our guy Clemens is educated. He is a doctor, studied to be a doctor, but no one will hire him because he's black.
Well, didn't he say that he got the job working for, or was he just bouncing around trying?
Well, they hired him, and he showed up, and when he was black, they were like, not so much.
Got it.
And also, just from a quick Google, the name Dracula means son of Dracul. In the Romanian language today, Dracul means the devil, but it is derived from the Latin Draco, meaning dragon.
There we go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Draco Malfoy.
Hey.
So
Ivan Draco.
I like it. There's a crossover for you. So they go to town. They skip him over, even though he says he knows his stuff and all this. But David Dalmatian is picking people out, and he passes him over, picks like a really old guy and some other people, and they're loading up the thing. And the old guy sees the dragon symbols, and he's like, "Whoa!" and drops it.
I'm out.
And so by him dropping it, it damages the crate. Is it the one with Dracula or the girl that he opens
I don't
first?
know.
I think it's the one with the girl, because that's why they open it. Like, it breaks apart.
Oh, sure.
It kind of drops on its edge.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Dracula has his coffin essentially, and a bunch of humans that he can feed off of.
We
for
don't
his trip.
know that. We think. I think she's just.
I think it's just her.
It's
Is
just
it just
her.
one?
Yeah.
But he has a bunch of crates, and they all.
I don't. They never made that clear. He has all these crates that appear.
his outfits.
That are, but it's
his wardrobe
full of dirt. They open
they
them up,
open
and
them
they're
up,
just
full of
dirt.
Okay, I figured they were all humans in there. Maybe he ate the humans already and threw them overboard. She was the last one.
No, because they don't make any references to like what is in those coffins.
Okay,
initially I thought, I was like, oh, he has to be buried in like the dirt from this certain castle. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
So anyway, that breaks loose, and they're like, oh, and so then they're like, okay, doctor, you got a job, just don't mess up.
So this is another thing that I had a problem with, right? So the Clemens' idea is this woman is stricken with some disease. They don't know what it is. And his idea is to give her a blood transfusion.
Glad he's a universal donor.
Okay, but
I know, right?
Okay, so that's my point, right? If he's putting her blood into him,
no, he's just doing it to her. They're not cycling.
So how are they? What?
He's just purifying hers. He's like cutting it.
He's putting his blood into her to like fill her back
It's
up.
not a cycle. It's just
I thought it was they were just like cycling back and forth.
Transfusion just means you're getting it.
I was
not
like,
you're getting it back.
Like you're putting it in. You're a vampire now.
No.
That's
but
how
I was
this works.
also thinking,
Now,
I'm like,
there's probably a little bit of
a back.
Yeah,
that's
what I'm saying.
But
That's what I'm saying.
Man, and then I was thinking, like, what if she was diseased? And I'm like, that dude's dead.
Yeah.
If it wasn't a vampire thing that we know, like he's putting the needle in there.
Even if it
and
was just like the flu.
they're connecting at some point, probably. Or I don't know, maybe the tube's long enough where the part that touches is down at her end, and then you get disconnect. I don't know, but
Either way.
But he's a doctor. He knows his stuff. Apparently, I guess he knows the universal donor. Would have been nice to have a line of dialogue. I'm a universal donor.
I don't think
Do they
Universal-
even know that
They probably
yet?
don't even know
When-
that.
Why?
yet.
Well, then he's
year
just
does this movie take
gambling, and I
place?
don't
He is
understand.
gambling. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he's also a doctor, and he did swear an oath to,
I know, but then he should know that this could kill her. Like, there's just not enough explanation one way or another to just do it.
Yeah.
And if they didn't know, then it's a gamble. And if he did know, just say, like, I can do it. I can transfuse because, I don't know. Just a line of dialogue.
But it's funny that this is like a part that you're getting hung up on. And I'm not saying like, but I was listening to last week's episode
Yeah.
about how Jackie Chan just says, just go with it.
Yeah.
But at this point, we're just like, no, wait a minute.
Because the movie's not written well,
That's fair.
unfortunately, and it's just every single thing adds up, right? It's like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah. Right.
Bram Stoker got a writing credit on this, but I'm not blaming
It's his
him.
story.
I think that Broggy F. Shoot and Zach Olkwetz need to.
It's actually funny. I was going through and I was, YouTube just recommends all kinds of stuff. And I had not watched
That's how
it.
you became a Proud Boy.
It's unfortunate. It's like, wait a minute, this isn't what I meant to happen. But I hadn't watched the Exorcist trailer yet.
They're just recommending any pale white bloodsuckers.
That one.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah, right.
That played before our
It did.
show.
So I went back.
And rest in peace, William Friedkin.
That's right. Oh, man, what a loss. Man, he's made some... You ever seen Sorcerer?
I didn't.
Oh,
No.
boy. That should be your homework for tonight.
Okay.
Because it is so good.
Your homework is to go watch interviews with William Friedkin.
Done.
That
Oh,
dude
he's great.
was a character.
Yeah, that
guy
dude didn't care.
Did not give, and was so funny in the way that he just did stuff.
didn't
He's
care.
like for what's the Gene Hackman one
Oh, the cop one.
with the hat?
Yeah.
I'm just totally blanking the car one.
The cop, one of the best cop movies
Yes.
ever made.
Oh,
Why am I blanking?
God damn it.
I know.
All
The
three of
French
us.
Connection.
French
All I
Connection.
could get in my head was French Lieutenant's Woman. And I was like, I'm pretty sure Gene Hackman was not
and
the
I
French
was
Lieutenant.
in my head. I was like Italian Job. I know it's it's like some kind of language or
Connection,
country.
yeah.
But anyway, so he's like, we didn't get permits for that stuff. The only thing we had a permit for, he was like to just do one tiny little scene or whatever, and then we just did the rest of it. Like he is a character.
It's like he paid off. The story I heard was that in order to get the infamous scene where they're racing the
chase,
car
yeah.
underneath the subway tracks, that they refused to give them the permit, and that they went to the guy that actually controlled it at ground level.
Okay.
The guy on the streets, and they bribed him, and then he basically quit his job and moved to the Bahamas.
that's the story he tells.
Yeah.
Because he's like, if we do this and it works out, this is going to be great, and you can't work again, but you can retire there, or
Right.
whatever. So go watch the interviews. It's
they
hilarious.
gave him so much money that
Yeah.
he could afford to not work again.
Yeah.
The
And then
Exorcist.
He said last time he heard, he's still he lived his life
that's
there.
so good.
And the Sorcerer is currently on sale at Voodoo for $6.99.
Worth
There you
every
go.
penny.
I'm
It's
purchasing it
honestly,
right now.
it's amazing.
Okay.
It's got. I'm trying to think. It's
Yeah, people rave about this movie, and I've never seen it either. But
Who's in it?
It's Jaws.
yeah, Roy Scheider.
Roy
It's the movie
Scheider.
he made after Jaws, and this movie comes out and gets completely steamrolled because it comes out 3 weeks after Star Wars.
Yes, and it's amazing.
Okay.
It's so good.
I'll check it out.
It is one of the first times I remember almost having a panic attack in a theater.
Oh wow.
There's a scene that is, the premise is just, I'm not spoiling anything, is you've got three guys that they hire to...
A group of outcasts
There it
from
is,
different
thanks.
backgrounds and nationalities are forced by misfortune to work in an oil drilling operation in South America.
Woke.
When fire breaks out of control, 4 of the outcasts are given the opportunity to earn enough money to get out by transporting 6 crates of unstable dynamite through miles of jungle and two ancient trucks.
Yes.
And it's
Cool.
Roy Scheider, and then a bunch of names I don't
people.
recognize.
And friends.
Bruno Creamer.
You
I
might-
mean, literally, you know how Voodoo show at the bottom will list the
Yeah.
actors, and it shows the headshot and
Yeah.
the name.
all
You
There's
silhouettes.
there's
you get
question marks.
You get a headshot for William Friedkin. You get a headshot for Roy Scheider, and everyone else is a silhouette.
It's amazing. It's so good.
Oh, wait, but plot wise, so he's transporting this woman so he can feed off of her during the voyage.
Right.
And so she is basically...
She's like a human Capri Sun.
That's exactly
Yes.
what she is.
And she's all but turned. Like, when they turn, they get their white glossed over their eyes.
You get like the milky eyes.
Yeah, and so she is not quite there yet. He's able to prolong that because of the transfusions.
Well, he thinks he cures her,
Right.
Because he just thinks it's like an illness.
But he's just delaying the inevitable.
Yeah, which I do think that scene. Here's the problem. Also,
Yeah, I was like,
We're turning him. We're at
no,
about
no.
6 or
I
7.
thoroughly enjoy this movie, but there are issues
like,
with it, right?
the problem? Like, there's only one?
Did you guys watch Midnight Mass?
No, I heard that started really strong, and
No. It
Oh.
started strong and ended even stronger. That is some of the best vampire, like media. I guess I shouldn't. Well,
so you like that one. Okay.
I think
someone was just saying that it
Midnight
started
Mass
strong
is
and fell off the rails.
No, it does
Okay.
not.
Okay.
It's incredible.
Okay.
And there's a scene in this that is like shot for shot scene, like take for out of Midnight Mass.
Dang.
And I was just talking about it, and I was like, well, that's serendipitous because holy. If you haven't seen it, it is. I think it's the third Flanagan miniseries for Netflix.
Yeah.
Haunting of Hill House, Bly Manor, and then Midnight
I've never
Mass.
seen anything he's done.
Haunted Hill House
Those
is really
serious?
good.
series, those TV shows. Yeah.
Haunted of Hill House is really good.
Yeah.
Blythe Manor, I bailed on.
I bailed
that
as
was
well.
a snooze.
I agree. Hill
I've
House
heard
is
Midnight Mass is
incredible,
cool.
and Midnight Mass is incredible.
Okay.
And so, like, yes. So he's basically the woman gets out, and because the woman gets out, now Dracula's like,
Needs a
where's
snack.
my food?
Yeah.
So now he starts, and I like this idea that at nighttime he's just picking people off, and initially you can say, homeboy got drunk and fell over the edge.
Right.
This is the problem. This is the problem right here. So this movie takes place over, what's the journey? 2 weeks or something?
Something like
10
that.
days,
Something like
2
that.
weeks,
Yeah.
right? They're like, oh, there's a monster in this boat. And like, yeah, it's an okay sized boat, but like they have 12 hours of daylight to figure this shit out.
Right.
That's a good point.
And then it just
That's
goes
a good point.
night, day,
Well, it's true.
night, day,
It is-
night, day. Find
the-
the
we-
coffin and kill this fucker in 2 days.
We
you know
know
what
it's
I'm
I
saying?
mean, they do have a line where they say they've been looking for it, and they're like, we can't find
I
him. They
know,
don't understand
but
why
like,
they can't find him.
But they have so much time, and then he kills one person. That's like, oh, it's daytime, and now it goes by. They don't do anything,
Well,
and it's nighttime.
It's also summertime, right? So it's not like
I think we needed a cool hiding place so we knew why they
Yes.
couldn't find him. Like what we should have.
under a floorboard
Right,
or whatever. That's
yeah.
what I mean. But like, find this dude. You're letting the entire day go by.
He's like sleeping in a lifeboat, right off the side.
Yeah,
like, they're
sure,
not
sure,
thinking
sure.
to look in a lifeboat.
Where's
yeah.
this guy's? I wonder if maybe we should look in all this cargo.
Right.
that is true.
He's just hiding in plain sight. Wonder if it's the one with the dragon medallions on it.
it wasn't until they killed the kid where Clemens is like, "Hey, what's in all this stuff?
Oh,
Wait-
hey, look,
wait
these
a minute.
cargo crates come off real easily.
Wait, this woman that I'm kind of flirting with this entire time came out of one of those crates? Maybe.
Do you think there might be people or maybe a bad guy in one of the crates? Also, I thought would have been really cool. My prediction was one of his familiars was working with
I thought
him
it was the
and
guy.
letting him out and closing the things
Yeah,
back up.
I thought it
'Cause
was
who's
the-
putting the metal edges back on?
I thought it was
when
the
he's
second-
to close
yeah,
the crate?
I thought it was the
'Cause
second
he pulls
in
them off
command guy.
when he's in
No,
it. Who's
I-
putting those on?
Yeah, they never explain how he's getting in and out of.
I
his
thought
own
it was the
crate.
guy that was
Yeah.
second in command.
I thought he was getting paid off or
Because
something.
he's the one that's like, we got to keep going. We got
Yeah,
to keep going.
yeah, and it makes sense because the thing that's driving the crew members to keep going, even though there's people sick and dying, they want to drop the girl off at the next port, or at least Clemens does, and they're like, no, we're going to get a bonus if we get the shipment on time, which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a good plot point to keep them going. But also, yeah, if it was a hidden agenda of like, oh no, but I need to get Drac here because I'm his guy. You
He's
know?
like, actually, my last name is Renfield.
Yeah, well, one of them could have been Renfield. That's what I'm saying. I thought Renfield was working undercover and picking people off and helping him feed the
Right.
people to him. Like there are some really great ideas.
There,
here,
I think the whole idea of this movie is kind of brilliant.
the setup's great, and then all these things we're mentioning, you could really amp up and make it exciting and
Yeah.
make it.
And
some
I'm not saying
twists
I'm
and
not saying
turns.
that you need to make Clemens Van Helsing or Renfield has to be on the boat.
But they did. Like Clemens is his vampire hunter. They set him up, and it's like, are we supposed to know who Clemens is? Like, he should have been
Right.
someone that you know from
Yeah.
the lore.
Right.
If you're gonna
If
do
they're
it.
going to do it,
Right.
why are we now? I'm Clemens the vampire hunter.
Well,
What the hell is that?
I'm assuming the way they're setting this up is that Dracula's Jack the Ripper, right?
that's
mean,
always been kind of like a
That
a
is one of-
theory.
yeah.
It's Drac the Ripper.
He looks he's wearing the same outfit. He's got the cane.
Isn't that what they do in Dracula? Is that what Gary Oldman when he's?
I got to tell you, I've never seen that movie.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
There's one movie where they do set up that Dracula is the one that
I know there's the one where he's Judas. You ever see that one?
Yeah,
So
that's Dracula. I thought
it's Dracula, and that's the one with This Is Sparta guy.
This is Sparta.
Yeah, who's that?
Who's Gerard Butler?
Gerard Butler is Dracula.
Oh yeah,
But
that's the one. Yes.
But the whole
you're right.
premise is that
is that Dracula 2000?
Yes.
That's Dracula 2000.
Yes,
with Johnny Lee Miller in it.
and Jennifer Esposito.
There you go.
But yeah, he's the reason he's allergic to silver is his weakness.
That's
is
a
because
cool-
it's the silver that Judas was given.
That's a cool setup.
To turn on Jesus.
Ghost Ship played before.
I wonder why. Because this is a giant ship movie.
Yeah.
I
always
Did you say
think
it's a giant movie?
I did not say that. It's
There you
a
go.
ship.
And isn't Ghost Ship 2 other than the intro? The opening?
It's fine. That first 10 minutes though, so good.
Right?
It is
So
so good.
I knew as soon as I saw it,
I did.
That's the one.
That's the
that he
one.
was
That's
talking
it.
about.
Juliana Margulies when they thought
Can
that
we-
was going to be a thing.
So you need to go to Alamo so we can just review the pre-show. They had Dracula promoting a car dealership.
That was so good.
Old cartoons. They do a curated pre-show for every movie that plays at Alamo, and they're
Yeah.
so good. The clips they find.
It's fun
And
trying to figure out how does that what does that mean?
genuinely more entertaining than this movie. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but I hear you, and I
Sorry, I'm not trying to
No.
If you enjoyed it, I'm just.
I enjoyed it. This is like Halloween Ends and Halloween Kills, right? Like
Yeah.
I know that those are not good movies. I enjoyed them. I had fun because I'm a homer for a Halloween movie,
Yeah.
but I can also understand that they're not written that well.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to that Exorcist thing that I was saying. I watched that trailer and I was like, okay, like we're bringing back like the mom, which is fine. Like that's the mom from the original movie is coming back as the same character. And then I looked it up online and I saw who wrote this movie. And it's the same guy who wrote Insidious 5
Oh no!
and who wrote Halloween Kills
No.
and who wrote the new Firestarter. And I was like, oh boy.
How
and
are
then
they?
I, and then I
who
really
are they
getting work?
blackmailing?
because he works with David Gordon Green. And David Gordon, those Halloween movies made money. Like every
they
single
did.
one made a bunch of money.
They did make money.
And they gave
Why
me
not
The
just work
Exorcist.
with Danny McBride?
I don't know.
got
But I was
righteous
like, man,
gemstones to do.
yeah, that's right. This does not bode well for the Exorcist requel.
Maybe there's something else that week.
That's the other thing I did want to talk
Misbegotten
about.
sequels.
Yeah, Exorcist.
It
3.
is.
Jeez.
Why are we releasing? I think about the Haunted Mansion and this. Like, why are we releasing horror movies or spooky movies?
I think this
In
is dumping.
August.
I think these are dumping ground for movies.
That's
that,
fine though.
So
but
they can premiere on streaming at Halloween.
At Halloween. Yeah.
That's fair.
Get the
I
theater
guess
money
I
now,
didn't
'cause
think-
I don't
I
think-
didn't think about that.
They're not good enough to
What's
make
the
money
big
during-
Halloween release this year?
Exorcist, I think.
Yeah, so I think they figure like
That's gonna
we
eat
ca-
everything
We
up.
can't go up against that.
That's fair.
So we put it out now, and we'll get the home video money.
Yeah.
I'm sure Disney Plus is thinking like, "Oh, Haunted Mansion will debut in October."
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's a
for
huge
something.
driver
Yeah,
for
yeah,
a family movie during Halloween.
That's a great point. I didn't think about. I was like, okay, that makes more sense. But
Yeah.
we're gonna release them in August.
But it is weird though. But that's the thing is, so many movies come out now. You would not when there were 2 Halloween movies out in a year or 2 spooky movies.
Yeah.
Then it'd be like, okay, drop
Well, I
those
think
around Halloween. But now
what's-
there's 20 horror movies.
And it
coming
used to
out.
be the window was long enough to where it's like you could put it on a Halloween, and then it would come out on home video the next year at Halloween. Right?
I think of that A24 one. Like that A24 one is getting crazy buzz.
Yeah,
Talk to
yeah.
me. And again, it's
I've
like
heard really mixed things about that too.
Oh, really?
I've heard that it starts out strong and doesn't finish well. I heard that it is a good premise, but like it just doesn't go anywhere.
go anywhere.
And then I've heard some people say they love it. So like I'm just hearing really polarizing.
I just think it's weird to release things, horror movies, at least not until
They're
like,
YouTubers that made that
September.
movie.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
And apparently it's like, wow, this is surprising that it's good and it's making money. And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's some really talented YouTubers, but they don't usually go
the
to
jump.
the film world, right?
Sure.
And these guys made the jump, and
I wonder
apparently,
if like YouTube is like the new music video where
Yeah.
you're just like
it would not surprise me.
Fincher
Yeah,
and all
it's-
those guys came from there.
especially the barrier for entry has gotten so low.
Oh,
you can
yeah.
make really good stuff with just iPhones. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So-
Yeah, so they, the Dracula's picking everybody off, and they end up killing this kid. And I thought this was a really good scene where they're trying to do the same thing with the kid to give him the blood transfusion, and it doesn't work. They're going to throw the kid overboard because he's dead. And Sir Davos is like, I saw him move, and I do like that everybody's like, sorry, dude, like he didn't. Move.
Yeah.
but then it's like he probably did move because he's about to eat your face.
Oh, yeah.
So they take the canvas off, and they set this kid on fire.
Well, he sets himself on fire, right? Because the
But
sun.
he bursts into flames because
he
the sun.
bursts
Yeah.
into flames.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's
They
'cause
don't
of the
set him
sun.
on fire.
No, yeah,
He-
sure.
yeah.
Because he's a vampire.
Yeah,
set on fire.
I'm just saying, it sounds like they didn't go take a pitchfork and a flame and be like,
Yeah.
"Ah."
Viking funeral.
He
Well, that's a good way
eternally
to save money.
combusts.
I mean, like, it's efficient.
Yeah.
He sets himself on fire, then he floats out.
But then, like, they're just like, bye, and like flip him into the water. And then there's like an extended shot of this kid's charred face while he's sinking in the water. I was like, God,
this
damn.
guy really has it
Yeah,
out for this kid.
Jesus.
Yeah, this director got a vasectomy at 20.
Good kids.
Okay.
So yeah, so basically the Dracula tears through everybody, and our main Clemens and I wanted to call her Mina, who is like the character, the female character from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
That's not who she is, but that's what I thought of her as. Jump off the boat, and they're kind of floating like Jack and
Jill.
Yeah.
Whatever
I was
her
just
name-
saying, I was like,
Oh,
it's
Rose.
Titanic.
Rose. Yeah, right. Except this one apparently was big enough to hold them both.
Yeah.
And I did I thought this was a really good scene. Is Clemens worked really hard to get this gal healthy, and it was inevitable. It was inevitable that she was going to turn, and he kind of like comes to on the side and looks at her, and she's got the glassy eyes, and she's like, this was going to happen no matter what.
Okay. Coming out October 13th, The Exorcist. Coming
Okay.
out early.
I mean, well,
a couple
that's-
weeks early.
yeah.
Because next week, Killers of the Flower Moon, Scorsese.
That's not a horror movie.
That's not a horror movie.
No, but it's going to take a lot of box office away.
Yeah, but not from horror people.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
horror
there's
fans.
more, but I'm just saying, like, that is going to draw.
I do want to see
And
that. though.
is Killers of the Flower Moon, is that a wide release, or is it going to be like a New York, LA?
I think it's a
thing?
wide release.
Gotcha.
Is that
pull,
for that
pull
one?
that Netflix.
And then you have a movie called Crypt of Evil coming out the same week as Killers of the Flower Moon, and then the next week Five Nights at Freddy's, which is a big kids property.
yeah.
So that is
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
take
yeah, yeah.
and then
Is that rated R or is that PG-13? Does it say?
I think
I'm
it's
curious.
a PG-13 because they want to get the PG-13.
Yeah.
They want the kid money, and then that's a October 27th, which is probably a Wednesday release. Then October 31st is something called The Lost, which is a horror movie. You have Listen Carefully, horror movie. Dark Haven, horror movie. There Is No Sanctuary, horror movie. So there's a lot of
That's
stuff
fair.
coming out around there. So I
Yeah.
think they saw there was a loaded
I think that
October.
The Exorcist
and,
is the big tentpole one.
Smart to release it now, and like you said, get the streaming viewers then, because in the theater it's going to be
Yeah, it's gonna get swallowed
it's
up.
Exorcist, Killers of the Flower Moon, Five Nights at Freddy.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
the 3 weeks there, and those are all going to be big box office
Sure.
shows.
So she kind of floats off and lets herself get burned up. He makes his way back to England and is saying like, I'm going to hunt this thing. And I think this scene is really good, except for the fact that it's a stupid CG vampire.
Yeah.
There's a gimmick that they run throughout on the ship where you can knock kind of anywhere on the ship and it echoes all over. And as Clemens is sitting at the bar, he hears the knock. And he's, can't figure out. He turns around.
He does with his cane is how he's
Which again, I thought that vampires were allergic to silver, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't the case here.
I think you kill them with it. I don't know if it like
I think you have
has
to
a touch.
shoot them with it.
Yeah.
I don't think that.
like touch their organs or something. I always thought.
Okay.
Yeah, because I always hear silver bullet, not silver.
That's
a
a werewolf.
werewolf.
Oh, that's
though.
werewolves.
But with
Yeah, I don't
vampires,
know.
I still think that maybe it is an allergy, like a touch. But for some reason, I always thought it was like you had to stake them or like.
There's all
shoot
kinds
them
of
with it.
weird-
But, it's all different rules.
Yes, there's all kinds of different rules.
You know they're not real, right?
Maybe.
So, but did we say like it's down to Clemens and the girl, and then they're gonna like run the boat into?
Well, yeah,
he's, like, on the
they
mast
think
or
they've got
whatever,
him trapped.
or
They've got him trapped on the boat,
Yeah.
and they jump off thinking that he's stuck.
Yeah.
and that's not the
What's
case.
the thing on the front? Like, there's usually a mermaid. There's like a spike or whatever. Like, what's the thing called? That,
I don't know.
yeah, I can't remember.
But he's like he gets wedged between a piece of the mast of the mast.
Yeah, like I thought he got impaled.
I
at
did too.
first.
Yeah.
and I was like, okay,
oh, stake through the heart.
Right, which is what I think they were trying to.
But also,
make you think, yeah.
this is the lead up to him going to England, so he's gonna survive.
Well,
right?
yeah,
you
that's
know?
also the other thing where I know it can be exciting to. It's not the what, it's the how and the journey, and if it's
Right.
really interesting, good. Yeah,
You know what
that's
else I
great.
thought? Honestly, that this wasn't Dracula.
Oh, it was like bait and
That
switch.
he was like a familiar,
Of-
and that
yeah,
Dracula
henchman.
was down in the bowels somewhere.
See,
He
they
would-
could do some interesting head fakes with it, but that's the thing is, it's just like they show you the boat's going to crash. It's called The Last Voyage of the Demeter. We know the story. You know that Dracula's going to kill everyone and get out. So like, you have to make it really interesting, or else like we're not in it for the what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you just it's predictable. They're getting picked off. There was nothing that was like, man, this is so interesting.
Right.
What is going to happen next? It's like, okay, we know what's going to happen. How is it going to play out? And I don't know. To me, there wasn't enough inventiveness to keep me, hooked to be like, wow, this is really cool. I know. And
Yeah, I mean, if they maybe hadn't shown you the beginning of the boat crashing and just called it the last voyage of the Demeter, and then everything kind of goes down the way that it goes down, is fine.
yeah, I don't think we needed the flash forward thing because it just, I don't know.
And then Clemens is in the bar and he kind of like hears the knock and he turns and he sees the cane that we had seen earlier in one of the boxes, and it kind of pans up and he's again wearing like the cape with like the high collar and the top hat, and he smiles a very creepy smile.
He looks like the Resident Evil zombie from the first game that turns. Like, it just looks like a zombie with a top hat on.
Yeah, and then he's gone, and of course,
looks like he looks like the cover of a Iron Maiden.
that's what sure.
This guy can hide himself and disguise as any human. Has he ever seen a human?
And that was one of the he can disguise himself as anyone. I was like, you could Christopher Lee, or you could any sort of like thing
when
like
he
that.
didn't look like a human,
But he looked
I just
like
thought it was
an alien.
He's in a bar looking like an alien with a top hat.
I can disguise myself as a human as long as the human is a burn victim.
Yeah, it's
just charred to a crisp.
The choices are so silly.
And then of
Why?
course Clemens sees him off in the
And then he gives the outro about the sequel to this movie.
Yeah.
I will hunt him. I
down.
will, whatever. But he's like not Van Helsing or anyone. He's just Clemens vampire
I was trying
hunter.
to think of like what was Keanu Reeves' character's name.
Constantine.
He's Constantine.
I know. But
Yeah, don't
in our hearts.
In whose heart? Not mine. I'll tell you that right now. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of really good ideas, and I did enjoy this movie for the most part because I did kind of miss the more animalistic or gory vampire flicks, right? And we got that sort of.
Yeah, I appreciate
And
it
I do
that
like
there were
kind of
kills.
I do like the detective story a little bit, or the Thing aspect
Yeah.
of this movie where they're trying to figure out who they can trust, what this thing is, blah blah blah. But it is a little long.
Too long.
It
Yeah,
is too
because
long.
it got boring.
There's no reason to be 2 hours.
It's just
I wish the vampire was. I wish Dracula was a man, or not CG all the time.
He's a man, baby.
Yeah,
it's just such a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
it is. It could have been, and this could have been their way to get Dracula into whatever they're trying to do with the Invisible Man and stuff like that.
David Dastmalchian falls off the mast through the floor onto I'm like, how is he alive, first of all? But he
just bounced off.
He just
like those
crashes
crates.
through the floor onto the ground, and his bone is sticking out of his leg. But I'm like, that's quite the fall.
It's gonna hurt.
Well, it's like in the last part of the movie when they're like, we'll sink the boat to kill Dracula. And I'm like, he can fly.
Yeah. And you
Okay,
guys
so that's-
can't?
He
I gotta
can
tell you-
fly and land is
Yeah.
in sight.
That's a whole plot point in Midnight Mass. Like the whole thing is like he can fly.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing that I was like, man, this is all right. These are weird plot points that from a very successful recent miniseries.
Right.
Like, don't.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Yeah.
this movie was
It was. I enjoyed it a lot, but
a missed opportunity.
There's a lot of missed opportunities as
like
well.
this could have been a lot of fun, and it was just kind of a snooze.
Well, it could have been a really good setup for whatever the dark universe, forever the Universal monsters are now.
Right.
Like you said, if they would have nailed this, if they would have nailed something,
Yeah.
Dracula, something,
Anything.
But if they would have gotten it right and it set up whatever, and then he looked like a human, and whoever, bring in a big actor where it's like, whoa, it's like at the end of Alita when who is it? The Hulk, Edward Norton is the bad guy, and you're just like, Edward Norton's in this movie. Like they need to do that. The end where it's like, oh wow, here's Dracula for our new movies. Like they could have really set this up as something big, and the idea was great, but yeah, the execution was not.
Swing and a miss. Go watch Salem's Lot and Midnight Mass.
have to
You'll
check
be just
those
fine.
out, yeah.
They're really. But you've never seen Salem's Lot?
Oh, I mean, yeah, probably. A long
Salem's
time
Lot
ago,
has one of
but
the scariest scenes I've scared me as a kid.
Yeah.
Like nobody's.
I think I've
business.
seen that in VHS. I mean, it's been a really long time.
So good.
So anyway, I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table, and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at Joey Butts, BUTTS21. Also on Letterboxd at the same.
This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And this is Tom. You can follow me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. You can find the show online at facebook.com/Royal Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. And don't forget our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Clip Out. So that's it for this one.
The clip out.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
It's been a long weekend. There we go. Let's try this again. At youtube.com/The Well, I guess we can't say slash real spoilers because it doesn't work that way.
/ real spoilers.
/ at real
crying
spoilers.
out loud.
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
Why would they do that?
Who
So
knows?
stupid usernames. I want it to all be like social media, but it's like that's a terrible URL.
It's awful.
It really is.
So anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Cindy pays Rosenberg for her psychiatric pills.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the ride.